What's going on, manga heads? It's me, Dar Fox, and I'm here with ARG Bombshell. We're the Dar Arg show, or the Darg.
Dar and Arg.
Dar and Arg. We're here for another blog. Where this is basically like a blog we're trying to sneak in right at the end, right before we go to New York. But the first thing I want to do at the start of this video is to thank you for clicking it, but also if you can possibly like and subscribe, and also if you can post a comment. This stuff is already kind of fun to do, and to do these videos and edit them, but seeing comments and having any kind of engagement just makes it way more fun. So please consider doing that. It helps us a lot, and apparently also helps out the algorithm and stuff like that, so we get more clicks in the future and we can do more stuff. But
we like to hear your feedback. So.
Yes, please. Please. So like I said, New York is coming. It's just about here. We're literally, at the time of this recording, it's going to be a couple days, and
I am packing tonight.
Yeah, and I am also starting to pack tonight. Thankfully, I don't work tomorrow, so I have the luxury to pack throughout the day tomorrow. But I'm going to try and just kind of get a head start today, and just make it a less stressful journey, right? Thankfully, it's just me, so I don't have to worry about me. But you kind of have to worry about Robert, your husband, and kind of other people, right?
I mean, Robert and my husband are the same person.
Yeah.
But yeah.
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 What?
But also, our friend Frank is coming with us too. So.
Yeah. So one cool thing about New York, though, is if you find Amber, you might be able to get a very special business card. So
holding it upside down.
If
you find me or my co-host Marion on the show floor, you can get one of our Soju Wanna Read Manwha business cards we made just for the show. So come find me. I will be wearing this beautiful Crunchyroll lanyard decorated in so many buttons, and only there on Friday. So come find me.
One night only. One night only. One day, really.
Yeah. One day. Probably not night. I'll probably leave before the end of the day. So
probably. I have a Thursday pass. If you find me, you won't get anything because I didn't make business cards.
You can give them the highest of fives.
Highest of fives, fist bumps, bro hugs, kung fu fight, anything.
A little selfie.
Anything. Yeah, I'm 100% down for selfie time. So if you want to selfie it up, I'm down.
But Friday, you could get the Dar and Arg special.
The Darg, yeah. Hell yeah.
I don't know if you like that yet.
You don't like the Darg? Yeah. Well, you
grow on me, it's fine.
You will like it when we get t-shirts, Darg, and all that stuff. But yeah, so please, if you see us at New York Comic Con and you recognize us, like I said on our last vlog, I mentioned that we met Christine very briefly. It was just like the coolest thing ever because somebody like knew who I was.
You're not a fan.
And that never happens. I still don't want to consider the person a fan, even though they are, but whatever. they listen to the podcast. Listener of the podcast. Thank you for listening. But yeah, another thing, since we brought up Soju Wanna Read Manwha, Amber, you have an episode coming up, don't you?
I do. So hopefully this week, fingers crossed, it will go up. It's going to be episode 4, and we're going to be talking about the Remarried Empress from Eyes Press, and I'm actually hosting this one, so I'm excited.
Yes, not the first one you hosted, but...
Yeah, I also did episode 2, but my audio was not that great on that episode, so we're set on this one now. We fixed our problems.
The thing about content creation is that like you if you never like tried it, technical issues
so common,
so heartbreaking. Let's not mention what happened to this vlog to just minutes ago. It's something that basically I'm really appreciative to anybody who bears with us with any of our technical issues. Whether it's the Manga Mac podcast or Soju Wanna Read Manga, which
you did it again.
I did it again, and I just can't say.
I mean, I do want to read manga as well, but we're talking about manhwa.
Manhwa, yeah, and I always say manhwa, which isn't exactly it, but
that's how I pronounce Chinese comics.
I think you're right, but manhwa it should be easy, right? Manhwa should be easy. But it's not for me.
We'll train your brain.
Yeah, eventually. But I did want to move on and talk about our Halloween programming. We're in the middle of our October extravaganza, and the fun thing about October extravaganza is that we basically every single episode that we do in October is basically a theme to be kind of spooky or horror adjacent. So I'm gonna run down briefly what our schedule is. So all right, our first episode is already recorded, and it's Be Very Afraid of Kanuki Inuki. Sorry, Kanako Inuki. I always say Kanuki Kanuki. And it's an anthology of different stories by this mangaka Kanako Inuki, and it's really cool. She's a woman horror manga, and it's pretty different from some of the men they're really popular in the States. Most of the manga that do horror are like men, like Junji Ito, like we all know. And this is yeah, Amber does not like Junji Ito. You might like Kanako Inuki. It's fun. It's different.
I mean, maybe there'll be a Icho book that I like at some point, but the ones I've read, pass.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think like Junji Ito is so popular that it's kind of like it's a surprising opinion to hear sometimes. But it shouldn't be. It is what it is. But yeah, so that was the first episode. It's already out. Our second episode, we were reading Betwixt, which is another anthology, but this one has a mangaka and American comic artist, I believe. So it's both like manga and comics in one anthology, and that disgusts me. I do not want to get no American comics in my manga comics. So
You're missing out.
I am missing. I'm leaving.
You need to be a comic omnivore.
I don't know about that.
Just read everything.
So I'm gonna be in New York during that recording, so I won't be available, which also means that podcast won't stream live. I'm streaming all the podcasts live, so that one I won't be able to stream live. So apologies if somebody really enjoys watching the live recordings. That one won't be available. Next week after that, we're gonna read. It's gonna be a triple dip. It's gonna be DRCL, which I think is just pronounced Dracula. DRCL, Midnight Children, Homunculus, and Panorama of Hell. Panorama of Hell is Hideshi Hino book. Hideshi Hino is like a very classic horror manga. You have a very distinct style and kind of weird stories, weird stuff. We really like him on the podcast.
But then week four
is the one we've all been waiting for. Is the crossover. No, look at the video. You gotta cross over the video. There you go. The crossover. So I will be on the podcast. Seamus might be on. I'm not sure if Seamus is gonna be on. I will definitely be on the podcast. And then we have two very special guests. One is RG Bombshell, and the other one is Marion.
Yep.
From the Soju Wanna Read Manwha. Yes.
You got it that time.
I got it this time. Sort of. I messed up the easy part with the soju. So we're reading 3 books. Killstagram, Scroll If You Dare, I think is the name of it.
And then Webtoon at Midnight.
Webtoon at Midnight, yes. I don't know anything about these. This is going to be basically my first manhwa. I've read random manhwa stuff online, but never like a full book and never like a full chapter or full episode.
Well, so like Scroll If You Dare and Webtoon at Midnight are both anthology horror things.
Yeah.
But Killstagram, it's the first season of a series. It's a lot of manhwa are broken up into seasons.
So. Yeah, we'll see how I feel, but I might be like, this whole manhwa thing sucks. I don't know why you made a whole podcast about it.
That.
I don't know. I may be your worst enemy. No, I've been very curious, and I'm very excited that this is.
My goal is that you like it more than the way you just talked about American comics. Even though those are also great.
That shouldn't be hard. That shouldn't be hard. Because they're trash. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually fine with American comics. I promise. They're just trash, so I just don't read them.
Listen, I read American and Japanese and Korean comics all last night.
I didn't realize you were such a big defender of
There's stuff. Last night I read Night Fever by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips for American comic.
Okay.
I read The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife for manga.
Is she invisible too?
No, she's blind.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting ideas going on there. Interesting.
for Korean comics, I read so many different things on Manta, so
Manta?
Manta Comics.
That's different from...
It might be Manta, but
yeah.
I'm pretending it's Manta, even though their mascot is like a manta ray. So
Manta, okay.
it makes more sense to me.
It does, yeah. Please check out our programming. We work very hard on it, and the scheduling can sometimes be very, very hairy when you know, so much of us aren't available to podcasts, and we gotta find brand new books. And this year we actually Morgana, well, everybody in the podcast, and I think, and Amber, you appreciate this too as well. We didn't want to read Junji Ito again because we always read Junji Ito. He had such a monopoly on like horror manga stuff, so we just wanted to get away from that. But yeah, that's our Halloween programming, October extravaganza. Please tune in. And the last thing we want to do on this
Vlog.
yes, the last thing we want to do on this vlog is to do a quick little impressions review video, impromptu, for Chainsaw Man Part 2. So we've been reading Part 2 online for a while. We talked about it in the podcast quite a bit, but Amber has been pretty specific to just physical.
Been kept in the dark about Chainsaw Man
yes.
2.
And Part 2 just finally came out in physical. So you got to read it. What are your thoughts?
It's really weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on it. I'm gonna keep reading it because I started it. Much like anything that Dark Fox makes me read, I'll be stuck with it forever. Looking at you, blood on the tracks.
Yes.
But yeah, so I will keep reading it. I do think some of it's a little goofy. I like that Denji made an appearance, but I don't think he'll be like a prominent character still going forward.
Eventually.
Asa is kind of like boring to me at the moment, but I assume that they'll get into her more. I prefer the like twin devil version with her.
Yoru.
Yeah, I can never remember that name.
Yeah.
So
I think once Denji starts coming into the story a little more, he meets Asa, and there's some interplay.
Okay, so he will be around more.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Like
reassuring.
Asa is kind of just like the introduction to this part 2, but it's still the same story, and I think it's still Denji's story, but like Asa's whole character is a huge part of it, and kind of like the difference between Asa and Denji are like very big things about the story.
Okay.
Asa is very indecisive and racked with regrets and guilt, and Denji's a dumb dog, and he just chases the car, doesn't know what to do when he gets the car, kind of.
Okay, without spoiling anything for me or for the people that haven't read this far ahead yet,
Yes.
or further, will the child that was at the end of Volume 11 make an appearance?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
It might be for a few volumes, but they make an appearance.
You'll have my attention.
And it's pretty interesting / funny, and like, oh, okay. So
okay.
Yeah, there's stuff to look forward to. It's quite a good book. I'm glad you're enjoying it at least a little bit.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I'm not disgusted by it or angry by it. So.
I don't think we're gonna make a full review video on it because we talked so much about it in the podcast, and we've talked about it so much. But maybe these vlogs are a good place for a quick dip and like, hey, how'd you feel about it?
Give it time. I feel like you'd always find a way to talk about Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
So like maybe in a year, you'd be like, okay, let's start covering all of Arc 2 or whenever it ends or something.
Yeah, maybe
so.
Maybe. All right, that's all we have. Like I said, it was a quick impromptu podcast vlog that I'm gonna try and get out before we gotta pack up.
You got all day tomorrow to get it up.
Yeah, but I also gotta sleep, and I also gotta like.
That's what the blade is for.
I also have to like wake up and look at the roof and stay in my bed for a long time.
I mean,
and think about like.
Wall staring is essential day-to-day activity.
Yes.
How else will you know you're alive? Like...
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get any more dark, let's wrap it up. And thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you watch the rest of this, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and we will catch you all next time in New York City.
Yeah.
See ya.